We're now only days away from Cyberpunk 2077 officially releasing, and like many of you, I'm beyond hyped to finally get my hands on the game. While we all wait for Cyberpunk 2077 to release, I've been filling the void in my life, reading up on lore and finding everything out about the world and what to expect when the game releases. So today I'm going to be going over the 10 things I think you should know before playing Cyberpunk 2077. There are a ton of little nuances that are going into this game that have never really been done before, and your choices during your playthrough and your character creation can drastically change the way you play the game. Now, I will be covering everything you need to know about Cyberpunk 2077 when the game releases, so if you're new to the channel and you want a one-stop shop for all your Cyberpunk needs, make sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Now, one of the most important choices you're going to make at the start of the game is your life path. We'll get more into what to expect from each life path in a moment, but many people don't know that you can actually realign your life path throughout the story. If you find yourself playing as a street kid, but you end up identifying more with the Nomads or Corpo, you'll have the opportunities to align yourself with the beliefs you discover along the way. Now, this will have both positive and potentially drastic negative effects that can truly change each playthrough of the game. It can certainly create interesting replay value as well. Now, if you start off as a street kid and end up going full Corpo by the end, you may find yourself having much more trouble with street kids for betraying them, and while you may be aligned with Corpo, they may never fully trust you like they would if you had been Corpo from the start. Now, we already know that this is confirmed through various things like romance options, and we'll get into that a little bit later in this video, but it's definitely a cool dynamic where your gameplay and choices really do affect the world around you and potentially your entire gameplay experience. This brings us to the life paths and what to expect from each one. While you can align to other life paths during your playthrough, certain things in the game will be locked to only those that start and continue with their chosen life path through the whole game. So it may be important for your playthrough to know what you're getting into before you choose your life path. The Corpo life path places you in the highest echelons of Night City from the start. You'll find yourself as an agent for the Arasaka Corporation, and your body will have top-of-the-line military-grade cyberware that normal citizens could only hope for. You'll begin your journey in the city's center, and this life path will give you an edge when it comes to getting what you want from people without having to resort to violence. As the game describes it, you've bent the rules, exploited secrets, and weaponized information. As a Corpo, you'll be well versed in doublespeak, manipulation, in dealing with information and blackmail. The potential for playing through the game without having to kill a single target shines with the Corpo life path. The Nomads put you on a path of an outsider. The Nomads are basically the polar opposite of Corpo. The life path places V in the Badlands outside of Night City, in the perfect position to learn more about the clans that roam the far reaches of Cyberpunk 2077. Now, the Nomads do live in clans, roaming the Badlands, but they're not always liked by others. If you choose this path, you'll begin your journey with a major life decision: to ditch the clan that you've been roaming with and drive into Night City. Nomads are straight arrows, and they're known for their honesty, integrity, and love for freedom, qualities that few possess in Night City. As a Nomad, you'll arrive in Night City as a newcomer compared to the other life paths. This life path may suit those that are playing Cyberpunk 2077 for the first time and want to experience the game with the same anticipation as their character. The Street Kid life path, on the other hand, does once again place you in Night City from the start, but this time you won't be starting in the upper echelons of society. If you select the Street Kid life path, you'll find yourself in Night City where gangs and violence are rampant. However, this rough nature means that you'll know the urban environment well, better than the other life paths combined, and you'll have street smarts. Down on the ground, everyone knows everyone, and work comes in the form of trading favors and solving problems for one another. A street kid's best asset is their knowledge of the, you guessed it, streets, and those that roam them. While Corpos only trust and look out for themselves, street kids are part of a greater network of like-minded individuals. As a street kid, this network of people can potentially help one another out when needed and may be a game changer in many situations. Now on to our next topic, romance. Romance options in Cyberpunk 2077 will be unlike anything else seen in games. The choices you make will limit or open up your potential romance options, and as mentioned earlier, your life path choice at the beginning of the game can play a major role in who you may be able to do the dance with no pants with during your playthrough. Certain characters will only hook up with street kids or other specific life paths no matter what you do. While you can change your alignment throughout the game, some characters will never accept you unless you lived your whole life down that path. Another great feature is there is no romance progress bar. You actually have to get to know the character you are romancing to see if you're making any progress, and one misstep may spell disaster. Now, not only will your actions play a role, but the clothes you wear, your style, will play a role as well. While life paths can determine who is romanceable, so can your gender. Unlike most romance options in games where your gender doesn't really matter, in Cyberpunk 2077, characters will have their own preferences. So if you're a man trying to romance a woman who does not prefer men, you can only romance her if you're playing as a woman. Now, romancing in Cyberpunk 2077 may prove to be the most immersive implementation that any game has tried before. Now, we mentioned style playing a role in how characters perceive you, and this can play a very big role in Cyberpunk 2077. Not only does your life path and choices you make affect your gameplay, but so does your style. It's crazy to think that characters in a game will actually judge you based on your looks and affect your gameplay directly, but gone is the way of putting on whatever gear is best to min-max your stats, looking like you were tripping on acid when you got dressed. You may very well find yourself dressing up for certain activities in the game, and if you find yourself infiltrating a corporation, you may get a boost for dressing the corporate part. You may not fully blend in, but you won't stand out as much either. It will be interesting to see how much style plays a part in the gameplay of Cyberpunk 2077, and it'll be really interesting to see how you can build variations on your gameplay depending on the clothes that you're wearing, and it's definitely going to be something that I'm going to be covering heavily in Cyberpunk 2077, so definitely make sure to keep an eye out for videos in the future. Now, I do want to go over the core stats that are available on your character both when creating your character and as you level up throughout the game. These core stats are body, intelligence, reflexes, technical, and cool. Yeah, cool is an actual stat. You'll start the game by being able to assign a limited amount of points between all the categories, and it also appears you'll be able to continue putting points into these attributes as you level up. Now, the body attribute focuses on your raw physical power. Players who select to upgrade this attribute will be able to increase their health, reduce bullet spread for weapons, and boost their overall melee damage and increase their stamina pool. So for the most part, the body stat is a pretty important one. Now we've got intelligence. This attribute is all about your intellect and memory. Putting points into the stat will reduce the difficulty of hacking and shorten program upload duration and memory pool. Then we've got the reflex attribute. This is all about coordination and speed. Selecting to upgrade this one will increase your critical rate, attack speed, and evasiveness, making it harder for enemies to hit you. Now, the technical ability is all about your technical aptitude. Upgrading this stat will increase your chances of finding craftable loot and increase your armor. Now, the cool stat, it's interesting. This attribute deals with willpower and self-control. Increasing this stat will help with stealth and how quickly NPCs see you. And this will also boost your critical hit damage and improve the resistances to effects. Now, these core stats break down into character perks, similar to a skill tree, and they all have various benefits for different tasks. Now, what's great about this is you can assign these as you want, and you'll be able to assign them depending on the role that you take on and how you want to play through the game. The tree expands from each of your core attributes, leading into skills that these attributes govern, allowing you to invest more points in these perks to further customize your playstyle. The body core stat is going to affect shotguns, two-handed weapons, melee, and athletics. Reflexes will be handguns, rifles, and blades. The cool stat is for assassination, nerve, and sniper rifles, intelligence for hacking, and technical for engineering. Now, while you may have these core stats in perks, the weapons you use and how you use them will actually level up those particular skills. So say you want to be proficient in sniper rifles, you're going to have to use sniper rifles all the time to really level up that skill a ton. Now, every time you switch to another weapon, you're going to level up that skill. And if you want to be proficient in hand-to-hand combat, then you're not going to be able to just level up and assign points to that. You're going to actually have to fist fight and use your hands in combat. I think that's a really cool way to play the game, because it allows you to actually really have to focus on a certain playstyle to be proficient in it. Now, one of the best parts about Cyberpunk 2077 is you truly get to play however you want. CD Projekt Red has gone out of their way to try and program the game the best that they can to make it as non-linear as possible. There's nothing more annoying in games nowadays than being forced into a very linear situation where you could have avoided it in many different ways. And the great thing about Cyberpunk 2077 is you truly have freedom to choose how you want to play the game and how you want to go through the main story. You could sneak into the area and you could play through the entire game potentially without having to kill a single target. Or you could go through the game and kill absolutely everybody. And you may end up accidentally killing romance options or even completely removing parts of the game depending on your choices. And I think that is fantastic. If you accidentally kill an NPC, you might destroy an entire story arc that you might not have even known existed. Now, not only can you do all of that, but you can actually avoid full-on boss fights. Now, if you find somebody during your playthrough that you just know is going to be a nuisance later on in your playthrough, those savvy people out there can actually find ways to take out these individuals before they become a major problem. In many games nowadays, you can tell who somebody is that's going to cause you problems later in the game, and oftentimes you're like, why can't I just kill this person right now before they gain more power? You can do that in Cyberpunk 2077. If you find an NPC that you think is going to potentially be a nightmare later in the game, you can actually avoid full-on boss fights by taking them out earlier in the game. It might be hard to find those situations, but it is possible. Now, I do hope that this video has provided you all with some good information before you start your Cyberpunk 2077 playthrough. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and I'll see you all in the next one.